And the headline here is that while Ovechkin is ready for the stretch run, he is not ready to determine whether or not this is his final season. It's now February 20th. I was always kind of under the impression around March and early to mid-March, preferably, was when he was going to let the team know if this is it or not. The thought has been all along, this is the final year of his contract. He's 40 years old. This is going to be the swan song and one last ride for Ovechkin after he broke Gretzky's record. But this is up to him, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to read a couple quotes from this story for you. He was asked about his break. Didn't go play in the Olympics. There is no team representing Russia, obviously. He says you have to enjoy the time, spend the time with the family. Tom asked him, I suppose, about the idea that he could retire, and he said, haven't decided yet. I don't know yet. We have to make a decision. We have to talk with the family. We have to talk with Ted, talking about Ted Leonsis, and general manager Chris Patrick, and then we'll see. But he went on to say that he probably will not make a decision until after the season. And to me, that is the notable story here.
Yes.
We've known all along he's unsure of what he wants to do. We've even heard, well, hopefully it's March, it could linger. If he really doesn't make the decision until after the season, I think that hurts the Capitals a little bit. And everything that they do between now and whenever he makes that decision, notably the upcoming trade deadline, is affected in a sense by his future plans. So I was really, really surprised to hear that it sounds like now he's leaning toward not deciding until the season ends.
I want to be clear, crystal clear. Are we clear, Crystal, about two things? One, he has earned the right to do whatever he wants. If he'd like to play another 10 years, you got no choice, given what he's put in the bank, to deal with it. If he wants to score one goal a year into his 50s, if he wants to do what Jaromir Jagr does, like internationally, and play and skate backwards and not play defense and just cherry pick, sure.
Play at the minimum, only come out and stand in his office on power plays. You could do that.
You've earned the right. Now, as you said, it doesn't help the Capitals, but sorry, you got the greatest goal scorer ever to live. The deposits you've put in, again, you have earned the right to do whatever you want. The second part, next paragraph, please keep that first thing that I mentioned. You're 100% right. This actually isn't necessarily great for the Capitals. I think this is okay to say. The greatest goal scorer ever to live, the greatest Capital, certainly, the most important DC athlete ever, the best DC athlete ever, is not the same player that he was anymore. This is time. This is inevitable, right? He is on a, give or take, a 30-goal pace. And you could just sort of see when you watch Night In, Night Out, doesn't have the same explosion, isn't the same bull in a china shop on ice, picks his spots. He's kind of like that slow, methodical, I've just eaten shark as he's out on the ice, just kind of skating around, waiting for his opportunities. Again, still a useful hockey player, but not where the team is, and they would probably be better off with a couple of young, faster skaters to kind of play the style that they want to play. That does not change his incredible career, how much we owe him, how much we all love him, and how we should be soaking up every minute we get a chance to watch him play. But we're now talking about, how long are we going to, what's our role here? How long do we have to kind of pretend?
Well, and the answer
in
is
regard?
In perpetuity.
If he wants to,
it's now up to him, right?
Yeah, and rightfully so.
It's not necessarily, by the way, like how it always is. But there are a very, very select few players in the history of sports that have accomplished so much that they get to go out on their terms. Whether you like that or not, whether you agree with that or not, whether you think Ted Leonsis should go to him and say, hey, Ovi, we need to know, it's not going to happen.
And it shouldn't.
And it should not. I actually agree with you completely. Mm-hmm. This is the difference between fantasy hockey, where you can just move him off your roster, and the real thing, where it's not just about the Capitals and the the parent club, so to speak, right here. It's not just about the organizational health all the way down with Hershey and what they've done winning Calder Cups. This city, the reverence for the sport, the interest in the sport, the youth involvement in the sport, it can all be traced back essentially to one guy.
Yes.
He has completely changed the city and the algorithm on sports in Washington, D.C. by himself. So, yeah, he gets to decide this. Now, I can also say this. I do wish he was making a quicker decision.
Yep.
And I wish he would come to the decision right here and right now that I want to celebrate down the stretch. I want to be honored the way that the ownership feels is best, and however that goes. I know he doesn't want all the parties, but He deserves them, and
Yep.
you should throw roses at his feet, and
Certainly.
that's what we should do for the next few months. But I wish that was happening because I think they've got to know so that they can operate. If you're just waiting, it's what I would have said about Brett Favre with the Packers at the end, where you're like, are you in or you're out? Esser get off the pot a little bit. You see this as at the very end of guys' careers, this is kind of how it goes. And it's up to him. It should be up to him.
Yep.
Ownership group is going to be nothing but classy. They're great to the players, so good to their stars. And they're going to be the best they've been to anybody, to Alex Ovechkin, deservedly and understandably. But if this thing does linger into the offseason, it colors your trade deadline a little bit. And then there's the possibility that you get to the offseason and he goes, I want to play a couple more years or another year. Okay, what does that mean? Well, now you're giving him a year contract, and that money's not going to an up-and-coming 26 or 27-year-old you can acquire in a trade to be your next Dylan Strome or your next Jacob Chikrin or whatever. So it is simultaneously both understandable and a little frustrating, and because of that, it's a perplexing situation.
Yeah,
I had not heard
right.
the word off-season. Like, probably not going to decide until the offseason, until this Galiti story came out on NHL.com that I got sent today. And I'm going, really? The offseason?
Yeah.
That was never the timeline.
Yeah, here's what I thought. Okay, and this is not based on information, just sort of reading the tea leaves and watching him play and what quotes we get and information we've got, just like anybody else, was he had already decided this was going to be it. And he didn't want ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to center ice as we honor Alex Ovechkin with this rocking chair. Ladies and gentlemen, for the final time, coming to Minnesota, the great number 8, Alex Ovechkin, goal scorer. Here's a piece of the net that he scored on so many times. I don't think he wanted that. I think he wanted to.
Remember, he did it last year. He hated that last year.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there was more games than not where him and his teammates stood there before the game started or after the game
and
or whatever.
It took its toll.
For 10 minutes. And he's like, I am good on this.
And I think that influenced it, but I think also who he is. I think it was going to be like not quite the facts from Michael Jordan that says I'm back, but something to the effect of, okay, that's it. Thank you, guys. And there'd be no fanfare, and he would just go to Russia, play a couple more years in the KHL just so, he and his kids can hang out, and that'd be it. Now this is kind of I don't know why I was so convinced of that. That's on me. That was my own sort of, hey, I think I've got this right. But what's that based on? It's not based on a quote. It's just based on, information that, you're looking at second and third hand, observations and the like. So this is, the first newsworthy item that it's come to about what his actual plan is at this point. If we take him at his word, he hasn't made up his mind yet. And again, he's earned every right. He should play until he doesn't feel like it anymore. He has earned that. But at the same time, it no longer is maybe in the best interest of a competitive hockey team for that to take a year, 2 years, 3 more years, et cetera. But again, that's secondary. Sorry, he's been that great for you.
He is still a very good, very useful player. And he is still an excellent goal scorer. I mean, you're talking about a 30-plus goal season loading here for Alex Ovechkin, again, in a year where he has been inconsistent for stretches, right? This is year 21. It's the 21st time he scored 20 goals, batting 1,000 in that regard in his career. A year ago, remember, he missed the 16 games with a fractured fibula, and he still scored 44 times.
Was on 55-goal pace.
That was a 65-game season for him, and he would have been mid to upper 50s. Could have scored 60 goals. Who knows, the way last year went. This season right now, it's 1 goal off of the team lead. So Wilson has 23, he has 22. So again, we're not talking about a guy. It's not like he has 9 goals and he's just killing them out there on the ice. He's going to lead the team in goals probably again this season. 48 points in 59 games. He is still productive. But he does have these stretches where, if you look at right before the break when the team was hot and winning, he didn't score a goal in the final 5 games before the break. He had just 2 goals in the last 13 games going into this respite for the Olympics. There are still going to be those heaters where Ovi just goes nuclear.
Right.
He's like 2 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, hat trick. And you look up after 5 games and he scored 11 times or something. And he had a 5-goal, 4-game span, right before the 13-game stretch where he only scored twice. Before that stretch, he went 14 games and scored once. So you're just seeing the peaks and the valleys more often, and the valleys are a little bit deeper.
Here's the difference, and I'm going to tag you back in. What it used to be versus what it is now. And what I mean is, their goals are fleeting and fickle. They're hard. You could have 10 great shots, hit the pipe a couple times, guy makes a great save, whatever. It's like hits in baseball. The difference is when Tom Wilson isn't scoring, there's still 75 things on the checklist that he's doing at a high level that help the hockey team. Ovechkin doesn't do that anymore. He used to. He used to hit everything that moved. If he's not scoring, you had to have your head on a swivel because here comes number 8 to throw you into the 10th row. That's not the case now, right? So if he's not scoring, he's no longer that excellent high-level contributor.
Yeah, there's ways that he's going to help. He's still going to be immensely physical, and he can have those shifts where he brings the entire team into the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got to be scoring goals. That is the carrying tool. That is the attribute.
Right.
That's the plus trait. And, yeah, if there's a stretch where for 13 games he's not, I mean, just look at the fact that in the game on February 5th against Nashville, right before their Olympic break, he was on ice for 13 minutes and 15 seconds, which was his lowest total of his career for the Capitals. That's telling.
Yeah.
That's not me saying anything. That's not you saying anything. That's Spencer Carberry putting his best guys out there to win a hockey game, and Ovechkin skated for 13-15.
That's Dale Hunter-esque right there when he was coaching.
What I wonder is, I don't know what's important to him. Like, he broke the record, and we all said that's what you were hunting. Then he gets to 900, and you're like, you got your own club now. Does he care about the fact, like right now, this moment, if you tally up playoff and regular season goals, this is not the all-time goals number that he already is the record holder of, where he surpassed Gretzky, but all-time, if you include playoff goals, he's at 996. Maybe he wants to be the second guy to get to 1,000. Maybe he wants to surpass Gretzky on that list, too. Gretzky's got 1,016 all-time goals if you include the playoffs. Now, that's not a number anyone's ever talked about, that anybody cares about, that anybody knows, because it's not an authentic, actual thing that matters. But it could be in Ovechkin's mind that he goes, I need 10-20. I want to beat Gretzky there, too, regular season playoffs. You just don't know what the motivations are. It could just be that he's still having a lot of fun, that he's not ready to retire, that he doesn't want to give it up,
Yep.
and he still feels like I can go out on any given night and score twice, and I'm still that kind of player. Him being around is not a problem. It's him being around if you're paying him the top shelf money. And the example I'll give on like why it's important that he gives them an answer, in my opinion, would be, think about this trade deadline. They're so good. The Capitals are excellent player acquisition and bringing in the guy who is either about to flourish or entering his prime, and then you get more out of him here. So like I mentioned, Chychrun or Strome or TJ Oshie. There's so many of these examples, right?
Yep.
You could go get that guy this year who you then plan on extending, like they did with Jensen, like they've done with Chychrun, like they've done with Strome, like they did with Oshie. But if you don't have the 9, 10, 11, whatever million I don't know if it was a factor at all, but I guess my point is if you knew you had a ton of money getting freed up in the next couple of years, you might be a little more aggressive in a sweepstakes like that than not knowing. And if Obi wants a one-year deal at $11 million or what, I don't know what it would be, $8 million next year, that's a different math problem. So I just think there are real examples where you can't convince me that them not knowing is anything other than a detriment to the roster build.
It is.
But at the same time, my lead is still, it's Ovi, greatest DC athlete of all time, most important athlete of my lifetime in this city, far and away, and it's going to be up to him, and I want to be respectful to that.
And it should be up to him. Again, I hope it doesn't get lost in the sauce. I think two things can be true. It's not an advantage to the team to not know. It's not an advantage to the team to know or to not know, rather. Do we have $8, $9, $10 million in salary cap availability or not? Like, as you said, with the trade deadline this year, should we be, I'm just saying for the sake of argument, I don't know that they're in the exact spot for this, but should we be selling right now and gear up for next year because we know we've got $9 million coming off the cap and we could use that for a player and maybe another kind of fringe third or fourth line guy or a second defenseman or something? Or should we be going all in because we're going to keep this window open because Ovi's coming back for a year, 2 years, whatever? Those are important things to know for the future. This is one of those crossroad type moments. Or again, coming up at the trade deadline early March, where it would behoove them, it would be helpful to have some kind of inclination as to what their roster might look like next year.
Maybe it's possible that he will tell ownership or
that is
front office
that's true.
At some point soon, and he's not going to say anything publicly until after the season. If he were to do that and it could inform their trade deadline and how they operate, I think that's all that matters. You don't owe me anything,
right,
or the fans anything. Although I would point out it would be nice to be able to properly celebrate him knowing it's the end, if it is going to be the end. Like, I would hate for the season to end and then we find out he's not ever going to play in a game at Capital One Arena again. But my guess is if there's uncertainty still looming and nobody knows the answer, everyone's going to treat it as if it might be his final games anyway. You remember when Ryan Zimmerman
just bring up
is
Zimmerman,
like crying in at bat, and we're like, oh, this really is the end. But he hadn't really said it. We just kind of assumed, and everyone, every time he came to the plate, was like, this could be the last time you see Zim. I think we'll do that with Ovi at the end of this season, one way or the other.